So another thing about components is you can yes, you can copy and paste and duplicate easily. Uh, sorry. Let's- Okay, so let me show you something real quick. These things here you see here now, like are components. This is a profile picture. This is a profile picture of like this is simply trying to tell you that they've not uploaded the profile picture yet. But when you upload the profile picture, this is how it's going to look like. So this is at some point you can decide to use text profile. Like this is going to be picked if you sign up on applications very well, you will observe that if you just signed up, if you go to your profile section, you are likely to see something like this that has your name. If your name is like Moses, like top skill now, so you're going to have CS here until you have a profile picture. When you see something like this is an organization icon. So if you sign up as an organization, you tend to see something like this until you add the picture to it. This is how it's going to look like. So in the sense whereby you've created your component already, it makes works easier. You already know the kind of components that's going to be there at some point. If this person uploads this profile picture, this is what's going to be there. If the person has not uploaded a profile picture, this is what is going to be there. Okay, so in the sense whereby there are different components, let me show you another kind of components you can create. Um, we have icon sizes. So if you are using if I was dealing with an icon now, or let's say a text size, um, okay, let's say this box size now, we can have it to be 16 pixels, like 16 pixels here. So you can have another one, you can make it 24, you can have another one, you can make it 32, or 36, you can have another one, you can make it 48. So all these things you see here, you can use them as components. It comes in and when you are working on your design, where at some point you you are working on a screen. So this is an example of a component. Um, this is an example of component. See, this is text. So let me quickly explain this component you see here now. This means danger. This means success. This is trying to like warn you alert. So this is like some regular notifications, and this is just probably disabled. You can use anything here, but this looks pretty much like disabled. So this now you see here. These are components. You can use them in any part of your design. Whereby see when we talk about when you see you can use it anywhere in your designs now. So um, if you are working on the screen now and you have to use like these danger parts, this text is just like demo text. You can actually use anything you want here. You can say, okay, like error or have your login credentials are not correct. So you can just use this component there. If at some point you be like, okay, logged in successfully, you can use this. Then you can use this as well, like danger. You can use your username is correct, but your password is incorrect. Pretty much trying to tell the users the exact reason why you're unable to log in. Because if you tell this, if you use this now and you tell the person, okay, and this tells the user you are unable to log in. Then they won't know the reason why they are unable to log in at that point. Maybe their username or their email or internet. So if you use this now, you can if you have this warning here, you can just tell your user, okay, this is the reason why you're unable to log in because your username is correct, but your password is incorrect. Your username is not correct, same as your password, or you don't have internet connectivity here. So You can use pretty much any kind of component. So something like this now I call iterations. So when you use this now, you can decide to like change your design on the long run and say, okay, I don't want to use this design anymore, this particular interface. I want to use this. Then you can. So at the point whereby you've used this component here, this particular button or this alert feature here in plenty pages, like so many pages of your design, and you have to start looking for ways to like make changes all over again. So when you have components, you can easily make changes to this, and it will reflect back to every screen you've used that button. So I believe you guys understand what I mean about this component at this point here. So this is a bad component. Let me use buttons. Let me go to buttons. So uh, okay. So this now is a text button. Let's design this. Let's design this component now. This button, then we can use it as a component. So, yeah. So let's go. I'm going to talk more about these components right here now. So this is a placeholder. It's something we call placeholder. This pretty much can have anything as a component. So when you see this now, you see this component here. If you're on a website now or a application and you're trying to input something, you are trying to like fill in your information in the field, and you are not really sure why you are supposed to fill in your information there. So when you see a option like this, a button like this simply means help. So when you click on this, it tells you the reason why you have to fill in your information there or why you have to log in at that point. This is just like a quick help option. So when you come across when you want to log in and you see something like this is a simple component like a button, or it can just be an option that you can just click. This is just a very simple label that you can click to tell you why you are supposed to log in. Maybe when you see something like this, mhm, when you see something like this field here now, but it doesn't tell you why you have to put your information here. You see placeholder here, but this placeholder now is probably like your name or your password, and you're like, why do I have to put my password here? But when you see this label here, this question mark label here, if you see something here, you can just if you click on it, it tell you the reason why you have to log in or why you have to put that information they are requesting you to put in there. So these are plenty kind of components. So this component here now, so these components you see here now, this these are like these are different kind of components here. So this you see this was the same thing I was talking about up here. This is info. Like you see it here, it's labeled as info. So if you are working with a design system that has pretty much plenty screens and plenty pages, these components can help you keep track of what you are doing. When you label this as info already, so the next time you come across this button, or maybe you are not the one that did the design initially, and you come across something like this and you're wondering why is this here, what's this used for? There's a label to it that tells you that this is the info button. So this is an error button, this is a success button, and it's probably a message. Well, in the sense whereby there are these icons you see here are pretty much explanatory, like self-explanatory. You can literally tell like this is what this button is supposed to be, this error or fail. This means information and this means sources. But you are not going to encounter this kind of components every time. There are some points where you see some icons and you don't really know what they mean. But when there's a label attached to the components, you can be able to like identify that particular component and where to use it almost immediately. Let's move to the next one. Images. Images can be components as well. Pretty much anything can be components, can be made as components. At some point in time, you might have come across ratios like this 1 by 1, 16 by 9, 16, 4 by 3. If you use Instagram very well, let me use Instagram as an example. If you use Instagram very well, there are some points where you see some design, some image ratios. If you see a picture landscape like this, or you are watching a movie, and the movie is pretty much landscape, this is the resolution, this is the likely resolution. Then this 1 by 1 is pretty much of social media posts. So Instagram uses this ratio. Most of the pictures on Instagram use this ratio. And yeah, this as well. You can use this fonts for pictures as well. So this images ratio. You can use pretty much any kind of ratio. But these are the most common ratios you are going to ever use in design.
All right, awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, so what we're going to do right now, using some of these components that you've learned, we are going to just, come up with some of them. I'm going to show you, some of the things that he has done already. We're just going to do like a quick recap, and yeah, we're going to. So let's just kick off. I'm going to call this file component. So of course you can rename by just double clicking on the name you see here. So we can say this is nameless for now. So just by double clicking, I can change this to components, and we are able to name this file. I can also click on this page and just use Control D or Command D to duplicate this page. So of course, these are some of the stuff we did in the last class. What we're going to do right now is we are going to build. So let's kick off by talking about balance, right? So when you hear anybody talking about balance in design, they are basically trying to ask you to adjust the position of things or the way the components are arranged, and also try to maintain consistency at the same time. So for example, just a quick assumption. So I'm going to be fast. I'm going to design a bunch of components. I'm going to be very fast. So let's assume I'm using a border radius of 6 for my button, or maybe 4. I think 4 should be fine. And I just use like a very simple color. So we're going to assume we have like, a primary color of, I think blue. So we can stick to something around here. Let's see. Okay. And then we have our text. Let's call this primary. I'm going to use 14px. And of course, reduce the size of this button. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do here using this set of tools for alignment. So see, with this, we can actually align to the left. We can align to the right. So just by hovering on these items, you see the properties, right? You can align horizontally to the center. And also with this item, we can align vertically to the center. So, I always find myself using these two items, trying to make sure it's properly centered. So let me show you. So you see what we have right now. Using this item, we can, align properly. I'm going to select this again. First off, I'm going to use this item we have here to set the width to auto. Now, the idea of setting the width to auto is basically because, just because of the way I dragged this item right now, because of the way I dragged this component, the default size of this text, increased in terms of the height. So I have to adjust this by using auto width. It comes back to normal. And when I select this item like this, I can easily align, align to the center, both vertically and horizontally. So that is just a quick tip. Let's proceed. So now we have our button. We're not doing anything complex here. No auto layout, no framing. We're just using a text and a rectangle, right? and I grouped this. I grouped it together automatically. I have a button. You can make this a component if you have plans to, reuse it later. You can rename your component and use it the way you want. For now, we just have a simple button, not a component, or something we can just move around, right? Okay, so that's it for the button. We are also going to focus on talking about what I call margin. We're going to set like a margin on this page, so we can actually determine the range at which we can move our items around, or maybe the specific position where we can put some of these components. So basically, that is where the ruler comes in, right? So having the ruler, you can decide to set your boundary. Let's assume we're building a blog page and we want to make sure that nothing goes out of a specific boundary. So we have to follow that boundary, right? So we have to make sure every component we're putting in here sits around here, within this space. You can also set the boundary, for the top and also maybe for the bottom. So it depends on what you're trying to build, right? If you're trying to build, let's assume you're trying to create a simple header around here. So what I mean header, I'm talking about the first, the first thing you see when you open up your web page. That first set of section, that first section you see, maybe we have someone's image around here. I'm going to tell you how I usually position this. Basically, there's something we call the layout grid. Most people will definitely use that, but we're not going to use that for now. I'm just going to show you how it works. So using the layout grid, you can actually, partition your page, or probably give your page a good alignment in terms of like the margins, right? You can actually set a very good margin. So I can easily click on this item you see here, and then I change this from grid to columns. Now the thing is, there will be a time where we really talk about this in detail, right? I will show you, when to use grid, when to use columns, when to use row. Ideally, use grid for, text when you're working with text and you're trying to make sure your text are properly, arranged and stacked among on the page, right? So they are stacked on top of each other properly, or below each other properly, and then you use your columns basically for creating. Most times for making sure that items fall within a specific range of columns. So imagine we have 12, and maybe we set a margin of like 80. I usually use 80. That is not like a standard, but I mean I use 80. So the margin is talking about the space. So look at the space we have on the right and the left, right? We just gave this a margin on the right and the left. Then also you can change the color of the layout grid. Basically, you can make it even light so that when you're working, it doesn't really affect your design, right? So it doesn't really affect what you see. Then you can also change some of these options: left, right, center. But by default, I'm going to be using stretch because, of course, we're working on a web page, right? And the gutter actually describes the space in between, right? So you can expand. I would advise to stick to maybe 20, around 20, at least for now. But long term, you would, discover, the use cases, right? When you would find when you should be using the layout grid. So it actually depends on what you're trying to implement and how good you are when it comes to understanding the concept of grids. Yeah. So what I'm going to do here right now is I'm going to take this off because we're definitely going to use this some other time to explain more concepts. For now, I'm going to just use the ruler to create this margin manually, and I would definitely love to measure the size of this margin, right? So using several tools, you might find yourself using something like this or doing something like this to get like the specific width of the margin. So for now, I'm going to stick to maybe around let's see 80, right? I'm going to stick to 80. So let's see what we have. So this is 80, and I can also duplicate this, move it down to the extreme end here, and create another ruler. Okay, so basically we're able to set a boundary here. I can also use 80 here. So we're going to assume that we'll have our nav here, right? We're going to have our nav bar here. Okay, so now that we have that space for the nav bar, let's just drag this from the beginning to the end. And I'm going to make it, of course, white, but not too bright. Okay, so let's stop here. Okay, so now that we have that, I think we can take off these items. So we have been able to create this boundary right now. You can turn off, you can turn off these views to take it off. I think there's a shortcut for it, so I use the Shift R. So I don't know if maybe it will be different on a Windows PC, but you can try it out. Shift R key to show or hide the rulers. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on for now, and we are just going to come up with work with typography. Very simple typography. We are actually supposed to talk details about typography. I'm going to give you like an overview about this whole concept about on typography. So let's talk about how you select nice fonts, right? So how do you come up with great fonts? I remember during one of our classes, I think that was yesterday, we discussed we were teaching some of the front end guys on how to grab fonts from Google Fonts. But I mean, you're designers, of course, and you have your preference and your reasons for making these design decisions. I'm going to show you two websites. One is basically for giving you colors, good colors, like good set of colors. These colors are already determined by a bunch of artists. They come up with this beautiful groupings of colors. I think the name of the site is Colors. I'm going to drop it on the charts as well right now. So just check the charts. So we have Colors on the charts. And basically, what you can do with Colors, there are so many other sites like this. This is not the only site. This is just my preference. What you can do here is you can actually click on this start generator. Of course, you can sign up. I mean, it's good to have an account on Colors, so you can probably save some of the color palettes. So what you see here is actually called a palette. It's a combination of colors, serving you for a specific design, right? Or maybe you can also reuse it for some other design. So let's click on Start the Generator, and what you see is it gives you a set of colors that work together. Basically, if you use an iPhone, you can install this on your device. I don't think they have an Android app yet, or maybe you can check. You can check Play Store, right? So check Colors if you have that on Play Store. Okay, so for now, I can hit the space bar to randomize these colors, and of course, remember the colors are going to be like a matching pair. So even though I'm randomizing this, some of the pairs here you can definitely make use of them. I won't advise you to use more than 2 or 3 colors on your design. I mean, basically 2 is fine. You have the primary color and your secondary color, but maybe sometimes you might want what you call an accent color. Using more than 3 colors on your design, I don't think that is a good idea. So just a piece of advice from me, try to stick to 2 or 3. So by hitting the space bar, you see we have a new set of colors. I did that again. We have another set of color. We're going to work with the palette from here. I think this is, let's see, I can change this. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to see if we can pick something that has a little bit of blue or purple. Let's work with this. I think I can work with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screen grab. Basically, you can copy the colors, right? So you can just hit this and copy the color, and then we can go back to Figma and probably duplicate this page. So we're going to use one of this page for grabbing our colors, right? So I'm going to delete this. So let's assume we're going to work with these 2 colors. This is the first one. Of course, I think that should be white, right? So that's an element of white. Let's also work with this. So we're going to consider this to be our primary color. This is not pure white. FC. That's not pure white. So I'm going to also pick this one. I think I would actually prefer to use like these 2 colors if we're working on a design with a dark theme, right? I think that would be great. So probably we can test that. So I'm going to change this background right now to a dark color. I think I like this color. This is 1D, 1D, 1D. So let's make use of this as well. So we have three colors. We have this item. The reason why I'm choosing another color is basically because we're working with a dark theme, and of course this is very close to white, right? It's a variant of white. So let's just drop this. So we have one third color there. Of course, it's not very visible, so I'm going to add like a white stroke, so we know that there's a color there. And what you might want to do is basically also add the name of the color or probably the color code, just to keep track of what you are of that particular color, right? So I use text and I'm going to paste the first color. So I'm going to change this to like 30, just to make it bold. So right now we're just creating like a bunch of components to hold our color values, right? Nothing special, just to hold our color values. So we'll do that for the second item as well. Okay, and finally for the third item. Okay, so someone said is not seeing my screen. Can others see my screen? Please let me know if it's a problem from my end. Let me resolve that as soon as possible. Okay, so all right. Okay, so someone else can see my screen. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to also set this value of this color. All right, so now we have our color combination. So basically, we're working on a simple site with dark theme. Yeah, I mean it's going to be quite basic. So let's go ahead and start our implementation. So this is our main page, right? I'm going to call this like landing page, and yeah. So on this page, we're going to use a button, and of course our button is going to carry our primary color. So this an assumption. We have an assumption that this is our primary color. This is our dark. This is going to be our background. Then we can use this FC, which is not pure white, but I mean that can serve as white for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in some text here. I'm going to assume that we have like this simple oval item showing like an image, right? Showing a simple image. Then we are also going to bring in our text. So make sure you follow the rule you've set already, which is our border. So we're going to say where like minds meet to learn. Okay, so where like minds meet to learn. Okay, so now I think this leads us to font. So the current font we're using on this page is Roboto. Roboto is a great font. We have other nice fonts. We have Inter, we have Poppins. So, but the thing about choosing fonts, basically, I think it depends on what you're building, right? What you're designing. So imagine you're working on a luxury fashion brand. Definitely, you have to use a very fashionable and a very fashionable font, a very good font. Not I don't mean cursive, but something that shows. Since it's a luxury brand, you have to actually use a font that shows some level of luxury, right? If you're working on a design, maybe for cryptography, you have to use some kind of block fonts. It's not like a standard, right? You just have to think of what works best for that specific design. Right now, our design is all about learning, right? So it's more like an educational site. Personally, I think I would love to use something like a Vertica, a combination of a Vertica and maybe Inter or Poppins, but yeah, so you can use one font, you can use two fonts. Please try to make sure you limit the use of fonts and colors. Make sure you have like 2 or 3 max. But I mean, I would advise to stick to 2. Also, I mean, some people would definitely not know like how to make these decisions, right? That's why we have colors, because if you don't know how to make these color decisions, you can definitely check them out and pick, get inspired from here and choose one of these amazing colors. But also remember that making choice for colors is not just about what you think is beautiful or what you think you prefer. It's actually has to do with the use case. So since we're talking about learning, I think blue or purple is even way better than the color we chose already, which is this. But I mean, for now it doesn't matter, right? So for now it doesn't matter. We're just showing an example. So colors have meaning, and I think I would definitely share this with you as well. Let me first of all share another site that looks like this. I think it's Adobe Color Wheel, right? Yeah, I think it should be Adobe Color Wheel. Yeah, I think that's correct. The amazing thing about some of these tools is you can actually upload an image and it automatically gives you like a color out of the image. So maybe the business owner or your client actually has an image that describes his or her business. You can also use that. But I'm going to drop this on the chat so you can also check it out. Yeah, so I believe you've seen it on the chat. Let me proceed. And of course, we're talking about fonts. So I'm going to give you a very good site, where you can get font pairs, right? I'm going to give you two sites for now. There are so many other websites, but let's just try to limit the amount of resources we share. So I mean, so you won't be confused. But long term, you're going to receive like a bunch of links. So for now, let's work with the fonts and also font pair, right? Okay, so I'm also sharing this with you on the chat. You can create a bookmark folder. You see the way I arrange my bookmarks, right? So you can create a bookmark folder. I have a bookmark, a whole bunch of bookmark for designs, right? So you can create a bookmark folder and arrange your bookmarks properly in case you can't remember these links, right? Okay, so this is the font, and most of these fonts are free. You can try them. Yeah, you can always click on one of these. So depending on what you're doing, again, I can click on a square font type, and you see some of these fonts. Of course, I can test them out. Maybe if I'm building something for blockchain or for crypto. Yeah, that's just like my personal preference as well. But you have to do your research, and that's why we're going to teach user research. So you would make the right design decisions. So the next one here is font pair, and I think this will actually help you a lot because it gives you like inspirations of font types. Basically, two fonts, right? That's why we have like a pair. So two fonts that you can use, and they work together, right? So for example, you can use these fonts together. You can use this font. This font basically looks like a Playfair display, but I mean, it might have it definitely would have a different name. I'm just making an assumption. But of course, so you see, the idea is they give you a bunch of fonts that work together, maybe on your blog page, maybe on your hotel website page, or So as you can see, we have a bunch of samples that you can try, and all you have to do is probably get the name of the font. You can download it. So I think this is for a very popular website for sale. Yeah, and check them out. If you can't see my stream, you can end from your end and join again. Okay, so let's quickly continue. I'm going to also drop this on the chat for you. This is fontpair.co. All right, so before the end of the session, we'll have like a bunch of other resources. For now, let me proceed. So for now, I already made a very simple decision to go with a Vertica. So I have a Vertica installed on my laptop. In case you don't have it, you can easily search for it and download it. Check out the fonts. That's a very good place to search for fonts. If you don't get a font you're looking for on that font, you can also search on Google. Check out Google Fonts, right? You can check out Google Fonts. Let me also share that with you, Google Fonts. So for those of you that have not installed fonts, or maybe you have a question like how do we get this fonts to work, I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to show you an example. So this is Google Fonts, and this is like open repository from Google. You can download these fonts. You can make use of them on your web design projects as well. So an assumption that we are looking for a vertical. I don't know if they will have a vertical here, but let's try Montserrat, right? So I think it's a very popular font. Okay, so this is Montserrat. We have different types, of course, as you can see, of Montserrat. I would go ahead and try the Montserrat alternates. So all I have to do is click on this, and I can download this font family. So basically, these are web fonts, but nonetheless, you can also use them like inside your design. And I think it's good that you use fonts that are available and are free. A lot of beautiful fonts out there are paid, so you have to be careful. Maybe you go down to Monospace. I think we have Monospace, which is another font website. Is that am I correct? Let's see. Monospace. No. Okay, so this is 1001 fonts. Okay, so I think I think that was a mistake. I don't think it's called Monospace, or maybe I'm making a mistake. You can search, you can do your Google search. We also have Font Scorel, Typo, so check them out. But I'm very sure I have used 1001 fonts, so I would also share this with you. Just have it as part of the resources you've received so far. So let me download. I think I downloaded this already. So yeah, I just clicked on download family, and I have this font downloaded already. So all I have to do is open up this font, extract this font, and install it on my system. So this is the font right here. I'm going to move it down to my desktop. All right, so I have the font here, and I'm going to extract. So it's a zip file, of course, and on Windows, I'm sure you can also just right-click and extract, or maybe you have to first double-click. But on a Mac, once I double-click, I have this font extracted, and I can go ahead and install this font. Now, you see we have different variations of this font, right? We have black italics, bold. So these are different font style. So just in case you don't know, before I install this, let me first tell you the difference between some of these items. So right here we have the font type, right? So these are the font types, different types of fonts. When you select a font, so for example, I select Montserrat. I don't know if I have Montserrat in here. Montserrat. Oh yeah, I have Montserrat. So now I have Montserrat selected. I'm going to change the font size to maybe 90, so you can see it very well. Or maybe that is too much. Let's try 60. Okay, so now we have 60, and I'm very sure you can see this font. So now we have a font type of Montserrat, right? Then we have the style, right? The style, we're talking about like if it's extra light, if it's medium, if it's regular, if it's thin, semi-bold, bold, extra bold, or black. So different fonts have different styles. Some can be very bold, which is the extreme black, and some can be extra light. I seem to like this font. Let's see what we can make out of this font. So let's assume we say where like minds meet to learn, and not looking so bad, but yeah, it's not looking so bad. So where like minds meet to learn. Okay, so let's try to come up with like a tagline, right? Okay, and I'm going to change this now. I think I would love to use maybe like enter, and I'll make this 40. Okay, so what I'm doing here is what we also call design contrast. So what we're doing, we're creating this kind of hierarchy, and of course, hierarchy also gives you contrast. So don't be confused with the contrast we have when it comes to coloring, when it comes to colors. When it comes to whether graphics or UI, or illustration, it's basically what you call contrast. And I think contrast, as a designer, you have to really think of how people look at your design, how they see your design, how they preview or visualize your design, how you want their eyes to move from one specific item to another. The hierarchy will determine. So imagine you look at this page for the first time. The first thing you will definitely see is this, or maybe the image, right? So if the image is bigger and also looking beautiful, then maybe you will be attracted to the image first, after which this should be next. So designers can actually use the idea around hierarchy and contrast to direct your eyes, on how to read or go through or view a specific design. And Of course, we're trying to apply such principle here, but nonetheless, we're going to teach you, a couple of principles that you would use and that you need to know. So you're going to learn a couple of, design principles, and we'll also give you resources to learn more. Because of course you can't learn everything about every single bit about design within a short amount of time. So let's continue. I'm also going to reduce this. I think I would also take it down to like 25 or even 20, but I need content, right? So I need good content. So maybe I can try, let's say, okay, um, all in one platform builds platform for holistic end-to-end learning experience. Okay, so I mean that's quite simple. Let's say get started. This is already getting too much, but just to show a very simple description by clicking the button below. So of course, this is the initial detail we had was okay. I just wanted to show you how we work with spacing. So this is also called line height. So we have a text, and of course we have it on 2 lines. Yeah, so because of our spacing, right? Because of the amount of space we have for the contents, what we can do at this moment is when you look at content and it looks a little bit chunked up together, it looks like this yeah. So basically, you have this sorry, you have this text looking kind of like locked up together. You don't have enough free space. You can definitely apply, give it a line height from here. So this is line height, as you can see. And then now we have 22. You can use maybe like 26 or 27, just to preview and see what it looks like. There's no specific number, right? So it has to do with how much, how you see design. So you need to learn. You need to really try your best to read up about designs, so you can get to visualize design better. I'm going to make our CTA buttons. So this is a call to action. Right? It's something we expect someone to click, and I'm going to change the text to get started. And of course, we have our color. This is the color we really want to use. Something changed there, so I have to adjust this and also make it bold. I'm going to use let's start with 20. Okay. Proper alignment to the center. Probably make it bold. All right. So one thing that you need to also understand about working on designs like this is you always receive advices like make sure you keep things that are meant to be together, and things that are meant to stay apart should always stay apart. That's one thing you will definitely understand. It will take you a while, but you need to understand some components on your design that are meant to stay together, and some others that are meant to stay apart or stay away from each other. Remember that we have, this is supposed to be a dark theme, of course, so we are going to change the color of these texts to white. We're going to use the color we have here. So one thing we can do, these items are selected. I can click on fill, and I can actually pick the color using our color picker. So I can click on the color picker, and I just pick this color, right? And we should expect to have that here. So we go down to the background, and we also change the color by picking our dark background. So let's go ahead and pick the color. All right, so we have a very simple, basic design. There are a bunch of things we could do here to even make it look more attractive. We have meet to learn. We can also go ahead and decide to, make that like our key, like the key indicator, so that when they read it, they would know, oh, we're actually referring to kind of like a platform where people like together. So this is the main point, meet to learn. Okay, so next is the image. It's not compulsory to have an image. Of course, you can actually have like a whole background image, covering the entire background here. Make sure you have proper alignments. These items are not looking properly aligned. In terms of what I'm going to do is I'm going to group this. You see, by selecting these items, I have this. I have this option, and this option is basically the same option you're seeing here. If I drop down, I can click on tidy up, and it will automatically make sure it gives me like the perfect spacing in between these items. But you might be telling yourself this is looking bigger, and of course, why is this space looking bigger? So that's because our text, you see, we have like extra space, right? So you have to adjust that extra space, and of course, you can do that with this. So you can do that, which is the auto height. It gives you the auto height, and yeah, this is the auto height because of the font we selected. Remember, the font also has like default line height. Just remember that there's a default line height because of the font size, right? So the line height is definitely generated, as a result of the font size you have. So we can adjust this manually. Also select this again, select the items again, and then tidy up once more. And finally, I can group the item. I use Ctrl G to group, or you can just right click and group. So now we have these items grouped together. I can use this. I can use this option here, which is a vertical alignment, to make sure this stays aligned on the page. Okay, so and the vertical alignment is basically looking at the distance between this item, which is the grouped item, and the top or the beginning, and also the grouped item and the end of your page. And remember that we currently have this space filled navigation. So I don't really think it's a good idea to keep this distance for support navigation menu. So this is something we can also adjust manually. Description and our basic heading, and then we need to bring in our image. Okay, so the idea of using the circular the circular pattern for our image is a personal decision, but of course, if you choose to retain, remember earlier we discussed about consistency, and consistency, you can choose to also be consistent on your image and also the button radius. That is not compulsory. You can have your image, you can give your image a certain level of configuration, and you can say that is the default pattern for all your images, which means at the end of the day, every single image you have would also have that similar pattern. That's not a bad idea, and you can also decide to use a single type of pattern for both your images and your buttons. So what I mean here is I can decide to go with this shape and use the same border radius, which is definitely 4px, right? And I can decide to use as my image container. It's not a bad idea, and I think it also works well. So I delete this item, which is the ellipse, and now I move in our rectangle, or our, should I call this a rectangle? Maybe I can just call it a box, right? So we'll move in our box down here, and now we can fill this item with our image. You can definitely make it touch this margin so that it would look, we would have the same space on both ends. So I can zoom in very well to make sure, yes, it's sitting on that line. Okay, so now we need to add our image. How do we add our image? Let me take this down a little bit because of the spacing. So how do we add our image into this item? We also covered that in the last section, but I will also show you here. So basically what you can do, there's an option from this drop, from the field. So I can just click on the field. Then this is solid. I can click on image. I can click on image, and it's asking me now to choose an image. But let me first, let me go ahead and explain like a couple of things that we have here so that you won't find any of these items confusing. I'm going to change the image option back to solid. And now, as you can see, this is solid, describing a solid state color, a simple color. You can't mix colors, so just a simple color, right? And we also have linear. So the idea of using linear, I mean, it's very wonderful. I use it a lot of on a lot of my components, buttons, cards. So what you can do here is you can actually mix colors. You can mix multiple colors together, but it has to, follow a linear approach in terms of like the movement of the color from one to the other. What we can do at this point is we can try to pick colors that work together, right? I think because of our color decision, we just have to be consistent. So let us test with this. And moving down here, which is also the item here, I can select this and change the color. I think I would want to stick with the same color, just a different variants of that color. So I can take this down, take it down, and yeah. So we're moving down from light to like the dark part of this color. So let me preview this so you can see it very well. I'm just going to close this for now. So you see what we have, right? And I mean, this is how you use the linear fill, right, for filling in colors in a linear approach. So you have like moving. You have to move from one point to another. On a linear. Using a linear approach, and of course you can pick multiple colors, right? I mean, you can decide to have another point here, another point here, another point here. So you can decide to mix this with multiple colors. Just just so you know that that is possible. You can choose down the spectrum of this gradient. So yeah, so of course, just an example, you can do this. We're not going to do this, of course. So that is it for linear. You can also, change the position. Okay. So as you can see, you can position these items. Okay, so you can definitely play around with it. All right, so let's move to radial. So radial, the way it works is almost similar, but now it's no longer in a linear format or in a radial format, which is this kind of bunch of circular patterns, right, mixed up together. I'm going to remove some of these other colors we have in here. So you can actually do wonderful things. If you practice how to use this very well, you can actually result in building awesome designs, awesome patterns using this simple set of features. So that is it for radar. You can also mix up the colors, right? Then we have Angular. So the way Angular works is basically by having one end look like this. So you have like an angle, right? You have like an angle, and it's obvious. Of course, you can switch, change the position. This Figma has given you these options, so you can do like a bunch of customizations, right? So I think it's basically up to you. But with time, sometimes we'll hop on a call, and you would have me do a couple of designs or adjustments on your own designs, and you'll see that I'm exploring some of these things to come up with a good shape, right, or a good pattern. So I can click on this, and we also have the diamond pattern. I think Figma actually has like more options when it comes to design tools for implementing this kind of fields. I'm very sure that on some other tools I've used in the past, like XD, Sketch, and Vision, I've not really seen most of these options, especially the diamond option. I probably should have seen Angular, but for the diamond, so it's just another style or another pattern that you can also explore. And I believe you understand what is happening here when it comes to different options of selecting your fill patterns. Let's move on to image, right? So this is what I was about to show you. You can image also has like a bunch of settings, right? We're going to test this. I'm going to select a random image from my computer. So I have to click on choose image. It will give me an option to choose from the list of images I have. I'm going to click on Elon and probably use one of Elon Musk's image. I think this works. This is that's quite heavy. We saw that the size of that image for the pixel, I think it was over 4,000 pixels. So Figma actually optimizes the image, like it drops down the size of the image. But it's always good to make sure you have like optimized images on your design. If not, Figma might not be the best in the best position to be the one optimizing these images for you, because at the end of the day, your Figma file might just slow down depending on uh, the configuration of your machine as well. Okay, so we have the image selected. So this is our design. This is what we have. Very, very basic, very simple. Where like minds meet to learn, get started with the image. Of course, the image is not descriptive, and I think that is another thing. Must add value to that design, whether it's the button, whether it's the color, whether it's the text. So that's why you're going to do like user research. I said that before, and the reason for that is because when you research, on the particular use case or implementation that you need to work on, then you would definitely figure out the right choice for images or colors or fonts. So we're going to have a session talking about just colors, talking about typography, talking about playing around with images, and getting to use the right choice for your design. So what we have here is Elon Musk's photo. You can do a couple of things here, from exposure to so yeah. If you've not done anything around graphics before, this should not look confusing to you. I mean, this should look confusing to you right now, but don't allow it to overwhelm you, right? So we have a couple of items, and just by the description, I think by the time we start applying this, you see how it works. So imagine I apply some level of exposure. Let's zoom in on this design, on this image. So imagine this is the default, right? This in the center. But let's say you decide to apply some level of exposure. You see that now we're getting bright light on this image. We're getting like additional light. So the more exposure you apply, the more brighter this image becomes. So of course, sometimes you might see reasons to apply exposure on some of your images, or sometimes you might not see any reason to do so. So the second thing here is the contrast. I really use contrast a lot, and I try to bring out that. Should I use the word depth? That kind of that feeling. I try to bring out like a feeling from that image. So if it's a black person's image, and I try to apply a little bit of contrast to really make it very sharp and smooth, and use some level of saturation as well. So let's go on and add some contrast. So, I mean, this might not be very obvious, but take a good look at the picture and you'll see the change. So it's applying a very, good amount of light, but actually applying the light on the brighter part of the photo. And yeah, so the way contrast works is, I mean, it gives you this sharpness, right? It brings out this sharpness from that photo. It makes a couple of edges around. It makes those edges also very sharp, and the image looks. It gives it like some level of quality. But of course, too much contrast is also bad. You have to make sure you don't just drag this to the edge because you think it will make your image better. Sometimes I've seen some fashion websites where they have to actually lower contrast and even lower increase exposure but lower contrast. Maybe they're trying to recreate some of these vintage images, make it look like images from the 60s or 70s. They have to sometimes drop the contrast, apply some level of saturation. You see what we're getting now. We're actually like touching up this image. This is not Photoshop. This is basically what you might want to do in Photoshop, but Figma gives you the flexibility to achieve some of this configuration in here. So you see we're applying some level of saturation, which is of course working on the tone. For me, I really love black and white images, so that's why I use saturation a lot. I can drop this down here and apply a contrast down to this position maybe, and you see we have a very good inverted image. Yeah, not really inverted. I would say black and white image, right? So this is more like trying to convert this into grayscale or something. So this is good. I mean, I love this. But of course, let's just leave it at the balance, which is a colorful word. So yeah, down to the temperature. You can also apply temperature to this image. Temperature also would touch up the color, the tone. But I think what we are going to do is also have someone explain in details about the meaning of these items, or maybe in another session we can talk about exposure in details, contrast, saturation. This is basically what you will learn in a graphics class, but just to make sure you have that understanding, or we can share a resource, explaining some of those things instead of spending time on that. Yeah, so we also have tints, we have highlights, and we also have shadows, right? So these are things you just need to know that we have on Figma, and you can also tweak your image instead of probably going down to Photoshop or GIMP or any other photo manipulation tool you use. All right, so that is it about image. We can also touch the opacity, so I can use like 50. You see, it gives it this level of transparency, right? So let's go back to 100. You can make the image visible or invisible, by just changing this toggle. Click on this, click on it again, and it brings it back up. Okay, so another thing you can also do is you can apply another field on a specific image, right? Yes, you can use a linear gradient for text. I'm going to show you that afterwards. So now we can apply another color, more like an overlay, right? So what I just did here is I applied an overlay by clicking on plus. You see, I'm able to apply like a different like an overlay, right? Like a different color on top of that image. So you might not really see that in action yet, but I'm going to show you by changing this color to, let's say, our primary color. So I'm going to set this color to our primary color. And of course, I'm going to drop down the opacity of this color to maybe like 20. Yeah. So you see, we are able to add a level of a very good level of like an overlay on this image. And of course we can still see the image, but now it carries the tone of our design, right? The color, the primary color, it has that kind of feeling. Show you how you can apply a linear gradient on a text. Basically, you really need to understand that most times you might be working on a design and you might end up having to convert that design into what is it called? What is it called? Into an outline stroke. I explained this in the last session, an outline stroke, because basically, if you try to apply a color on this, we're going to try to do that now. I'm just going to click on fill, so I can just override the previous color. So you see, click on this, click on linear gradient, and I can apply that. And most times when you see yourself, applying, converting this into an outline stroke first, it's maybe because after applying probably like an image, right? You can also apply an image into this text. So just, you can apply an image into this text. So this is what you mean by linear gradient, of course, on text, and this is it. So it's very possible. It's something you can achieve, and it's good. Like, modern sites, a lot of modern sites do this. It's something you also need to learn, and make sure you master it before using it, so you won't have like a bunch of colors that are not working together. But I mean, obviously, it's great. It's great having this kind of linear text, linear gradients on text. So of course, we're not going to keep that, but just to show you what it looks like, we're not going to keep it. Well, I mean, it's great, right? Especially on dark themes. I mean, you have seen this on a lot of dark themes. You can definitely, I mean, we have this on our website, on the Universe website. So if you remember when visiting the website, you see that beautiful linear gradient that is also really animated. So you can check it out on our Universe website. Okay, so this is it. Let's take this out and let's proceed. I think it's almost, oh wow, almost done. That was fast. Okay, so probably what I'll just have to do here is to show you how I would come up with a very basic navigation bar. We are definitely going to, have workshops. We're going to work on multiple designs, web, mobile, dashboards, and all that. But for now, let's just go ahead and create a very simple navigation. So I'm going to copy and paste this text. I just want to reuse it, right? And then, of course, our navigation can also be like, this dark theme. But I mean, it's good to also make it obvious that that is a navigation menu. So what I'll just do here is probably make it a little bit darker or maybe brighter. It depends. I'll prefer to make it dark, right? So let's just have something around here. Okay, so I'm going to turn off this ruler so we can, also see what we have. So I remember pasting the text here, but fortunately, oh yeah, so I think it's actually behind. I'm going to move this text. So I'm going to just, you remember that there was a group, right? So this text actually followed the grouping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to you hold down my control key, click on the text, so I will select it, that specific text alone. I'm going to cut and I'm going to click on this item. So when I paste, it comes above this particular item, right? So it can stay. Okay, so let's move this back here. And I think this is great. Okay, so let's add. So remember, we have like our outline, right? Our margin, right? I'm going to bring that back in. But before that, let's just add a couple of texts here. So I would say for business, it's certified. So let's see, business. Yeah, so we're going to arrange this properly, anyways. So let's just add a couple of items again. Get certified. And we're also going to say our courses or maybe, yeah, our programs. And I think this is fine, right? So we can just have about, lastly, about us. About us. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the font size. I think that is, of course, too big. We're going to stick to 14. We're going to make sure we, tidy this up and also make sure it aligns, properly. Every single item there aligned vertically. So I'm going to move this down somewhere around here. And then I think we still need, probably we need an action button, right? Maybe like sign up, We've seen those kind of, simple designs. So remember, our design currently, we don't have like any specific requirements, but obviously, working on real life solutions, you are definitely going to be given requirements. You don't want to design outside your requirement, or you don't want to come up with designs that either do not meet with the requirements or the standards of that specific project. So, yeah, let's go ahead and have this. I'm going to change the text to maybe signing. Of course, down to 14. Make sure I maintain the size here. And also remember, this was actually a CTA button. This can be bigger and this can be reduced. So change this and yeah, let's zoom in here. See what we're doing properly. So I'm going to hold down the control key, so I'll be able to stretch this item without affecting what I have inside, as a group. So yeah, let's do this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So are there any standards when it comes to like setting your heights and your widths? Basically, I'll give you like some things, some sizes I think you should try. But I mean that's why it's called the design, right? You can definitely play around with a lot of things. Think out of the box, come up with something great, but don't overuse. Don't overuse text, typography. Don't overuse colors. Try to make sure your design has a good a good level of harmony, right, among components. I think I'm going to stop here because we are already running very late. Like I think it's already past 10. So you can have multiple buttons, sign in, sign up, and of course your sign up button might look different. I think it's better if it actually looks different. So of course to differentiate the two actions. Yeah, it's just a preference. Here you put in your logo if you have one. We do not have a logo, so I'm just going to use a text to come up with our logo here. Maybe I'll call it. So I said, "Where like minds meet to learn." Meets minds, right? Changes to white. Just a random text logo. It's called a word mark. Yeah. So this is like 40 or maybe like 25. As you can see, Figma also helps us with this ruler to make sure we visualize things very well. I think this is fine. We have it seated. It's properly sitting vertically with these items, and also aligned here. So we have a very simple design, very basic, very simple. I strongly believe that you might have, learned one or two things from here. So far, we're going to definitely come up with, dashboard designs. And what I wanted to focus on, of course, we're going to be giving you like a lot of assignments starting from your second month, a whole lot of assignments. So you have to prepare for it. For now, I believe you are relaxing. So just take your time, try to learn, how to implement some of these simple components, group items together. Just play around with them, check out the alignment, use the ruler, try to implement simple headings. Or you can also proceed to start working on several parts of the page. Some of our workshop sessions we're going to be having implementation sessions. You just have to watch and we implement things. Probably 2 or 3 people working on the same Figma file and asking questions. Why are we doing this? Is this the best decision to make on this design? And you can also ask a question on the chat and you can attend to it and also tell you reasons why they decide to make some design decisions. So I think we're good to go at this point. I am going to make this public. I'm going to make this file public, and I'm going to share on the channel, on the room, so you can check this out even after the call. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful night.